Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we've got some listener-submitted terms that we're going to take a look at.
Oh, cool.
So we've got astute, kickoff, bee's knees, and lit.
Wow, what a range.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild mix, right?
Yeah.
You've got like some formal vocabulary hanging out with some super casual slang.
Yeah,
And I think that kind of shows just how dynamic language can be.
for sure.
So we're not just going to, like define these words. We're going to like really dig into them, right?
Yeah.
Where they come from, what they really mean, and why you should care about them.
I think it's really interesting how these terms, even though they're, so different in how formal they are, they really show how language changes over time.
Totally.
Like they each have a very specific feeling that they try to get across. And I think if you really understand those nuances, then your communication is going to be so much stronger.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump right in with astute.
All right.
So you call someone astute. It's not just like saying they're smart, right?
It's definitely a deeper kind of intelligence. I think it's that ability to see like beyond what's right in front of you, to understand all of the implications of things.
Yeah.
Like almost like a chess player thinking, 5 steps ahead.
Oh, that's good.
They're 10 steps ahead.
Yeah, okay, so let's break it down.
Okay.
So astute, the root of it is this Latin word astutus, which means like shrewd or clever.
Interesting.
And I think that really brings home this idea that being astute is about applying your intelligence strategically. Like, having a sense for when opportunity is going to knock or when like danger is coming.
Right. You're using your smarts in a clever way.
Exactly. And this makes you think about why this word is so important,
Yeah.
especially in places like the business world or like in leadership.
Total.
Because someone who's able to make these really insightful, shrewd decisions that can totally change the game.
Absolutely. It can make or break you in those situations.
And our source actually uses astute in this sentence.
Okay, let's hear it.
She was astute enough to recognize the potential market opportunity and launched her business at the perfect time.
Oh, wow.
Like she didn't just get lucky, right? She saw something that other people missed.
Yeah. That sentence perfectly describes, an astute person. It's not just that they're watching, they're then taking action.
Yeah.
Based on that insight, it's like they've got this internal radar that's always on scanning for those important details.
So like maybe to remember this word, we could picture someone in a really sharp suit.
I like it.
Making like a high stakes decision in a boardroom.
Yeah.
Suit astute.
It works.
I don't know. Maybe.
I like it.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about kickoff.
Okay.
Seems like this word is all about, getting things going.
Yeah, like injecting a little energy into that start.
Yes, exactly. And, you're right. Kickoff has this like really dynamic feel that you just don't get from saying like begin or start.
Right. It's not just about starting. It's about starting in style.
Yeah. So think about how different it sounds to say, the annual charity event will kick off tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like it's not just the start. It's about launching into something, with excitement.
With momentum.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because even though we used it in like that kind of formal example,
Right.
kickoff can be used casually too.
Sure.
Like you can kick off a party, you can kick off a weekend trip.
Absolutely. It's a very versatile word.
Yeah, it really is.
Which is probably why we all use it so much.
It bridges like formality and informality really well.
And we can't forget where it came from.
Oh, yeah.
You know that literal first kick in a football or a soccer game?
Right?
It's wild how that like image became like a metaphor for any kind of beginning.
It really is. Like you can picture that first kick.
Yeah.
Like the ball flying through the air.
Yeah.
And the crowd's going wild. It's a great visual.
Perfect. Captures that energy.
Okay. How about something a little more lighthearted?
Okay, I'm ready.
How about bee's knees?
Oh, I love bee's knees. It's just one of those expressions that makes you smile. It's just pure approval and delight. Like when you see something that's just absolutely the best.
Yeah. It's got this charming, almost whimsical quality to it.
It does.
Doesn't it? And our example sentence really captures that, I think.
Okay, what is it?
Her new dress is absolutely the bee's knees. Everyone at the party couldn't stop complimenting her.
Oh, yeah. Like you can just hear how much the speaker loves that dress.
Right. And you can also hear maybe a little bit of envy in there, too.
Just a touch.
Just a touch.
But mostly just that, like, excited approval.
Yeah, and it's such a classic example of British slang, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's like that wit and that unexpectedness.
And speaking of unexpected bee's knees comes from the Roaring '20s.
Oh, that's right.
And wasn't that a time when people were just coming up with all sorts of crazy animal expressions?
It was like a whole trend. The phrases like cat's pajamas or elephant's eyebrows, like it was all the rage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. It makes you wonder, like, why did bees' knees stick around?
Right. When all the others just kind of faded away.
Yeah, it's a real mystery.
I guess it's just had that special something.
Maybe it's because, like, the imagery is so vivid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can almost picture this bee, strutting around with these, like, fabulous knees.
Yeah.
Like, it owns the place.
It's so silly, but it works.
Yeah, it's silly, but it's memorable.
That's the key. It's probably the alliteration,
Yeah.
the bee sound and bee's knees.
Oh, yeah.
It just flows.
That's true.
But whatever it is, it shows that some phrases just stick around.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what future generations are going to think of our slang.
Oh, I know.
Speaking of expressions that change.
Hmm.
Let's talk about lit.
Oh, yeah, lit.
Like this word, it's like a chameleon, right? Yeah. It completely transformed.
It really did. It's a perfect example of how language reflects, culture and how those attitudes change.
Yeah.
So it used to be slang for being intoxicated,
Right.
like lit up like a Christmas tree. Okay. But then somewhere along the line, it completely changed.
So how did it go from meaning, someone who's had a few too many to like this feeling of excitement and energy?
Well, think about what the image of being lit up means, right?
Yeah.
It's bright, it's intense, and it kind of gives you that feeling of being energized or like turned on.
Right.
And I think that visual is what led to the change.
Okay.
It became less about, physically being intoxicated and more about this feeling of being excited by something.
So it went from describing like a physical state to more of an emotional or experiential state.
Exactly. It's really cool how the image behind a word can shape, how it changes.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with slang because slang is so much more flexible than, proper language.
Totally. And it shows how language is like this living, breathing thing, always evolving, always changing to reflect how we experience the world.
Absolutely. But it's also important to remember context.
Right, yeah.
Like imagine using lit to describe your grandma's new sweater.
Yeah, that would not go over well.
Probably not.
It's all about knowing your audience.
Right. But back to lit.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in youth culture.
Yeah.
And it perfectly captures that feeling of, something being super cool or exciting.
Yeah. It's like that sentence we have.
Yeah.
The concert last night was totally lit. The crowd was on fire from start to finish.
I love that.
Right. Like you can practically hear the energy in those words.
That sentence is so good because it goes beyond just description. It brings in this idea of shared experience, Yeah. That collective energy that everyone's feeling.
Yeah, it's more than just a concert.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience.
And it's one that is electrifying and unforgettable.
Yeah, it's lit.
It's lit.
So maybe the best way to remember what lit means is to picture a party that's just like, buzzing with energy.
Yeah.
Everyone's having fun. The music's loud. The lights are flashing. It's just lit.
That's such a good visual, and it shows how much we connect words with our senses.
Right.
They don't just learn words. We feel them. We see them.
Yeah. It's like we're not just expanding our vocabulary. We're expanding our ability to experience the world.
And our ability to describe it.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's like language isn't just about communication. It's a way to understand culture.
Yeah.
History and the human experience as a whole.
Okay, so we've gone from astute to kickoff to bee's knees to lit.
What a ride.
What a fascinating look at how language shapes our world.
It's amazing how much we can learn from just a few words.
It is.
And I think what we see here is that each word, kind of has its own personality. It adds a little something special to our communication.
Yeah, it lets us express ourselves more clearly and more creatively. I mean, it's amazing how much we can learn
Right.
just from looking at a few words.
Yeah.
We went from boardrooms to football fields to like the Roaring 20s.
It's been quite the journey.
And even to a totally lit concert.
That's right.
It really shows that language is anything but boring.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So how can our listeners, take these words beyond the dictionary, right?
Yeah.
And actually use them?
I think the key is to think about them as tools.
Okay.
Not just vocabulary.
Yeah.
They can really, add some depth and personality to how you communicate. So don't be afraid to try them out,
Right.
in different situations and see what works.
Yeah. Like, for example, let's say you're at work
Okay.
and you want to compliment a coworker
Okay.
on their, sharp thinking,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just saying good job,
Right.
you could say like, that was a really astute observation.
Oh, yeah.
Like it shows that you're paying attention.
Absolutely.
And it just sounds a little more
Just
sophisticated.
got that extra